listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch TV about hats. I don't know. I didn't know where to go with this one.
I think hats in this movie is a character. Like, who's your favorite character in Girls Just Want to Have Fun? If you say hats.
It's Helen Hunt's hats.
Yeah.
It's the coonskin cap. It's the, like, rubber animals. The two dinosaurs that look like cat ears.
This movie is maybe just about Helen Hunt's wardrobe.
Helen Hunt is this movie.
Oh, I would say Helen Hunt and then the gaggle of big, strong women are this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So.
You're Jodie.
I'm shit. I always make fun of you for missing that part. I'm Jodie.
And I'm Andrea.
And this week we're talking about one of the joys of my childhood, which is Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
I'm so glad you picked this movie to follow up Radio Flyer. I mean that genuinely.
They could not be more different.
And we needed it.
They could not be more opposite movies.
This movie reached out a neon fingerless glove covered hand and pulled me up from the depths of Radio Flyer. So thank you so much for this.
Helen Hunt put you on her chariot and drove you away from the town in Northern California.
I have always loved Helen Hunt. Like, obviously,
yeah.
It's impossible not to love her.
Yeah.
But this is not a Helen Hunt that I know.
And to me, because this is probably the first thing I knew I saw her in, this has always been Helen Hunt to me. This is like her iconic role for me.
So funny.
Like,
I really had no context for this movie,
which is incredible.
It
You're
was
so
very
lucky.
fun to go into this just fully empty-headed.
Yeah. I mean, it's like my first exposure to most of the people in this movie.
And yeah.
And a lot
cast.
of them are, yeah, exactly. So this came out in 1985. I was 10.
I was 0. I was 0 years old.
And I think in the photograph I just showed you in my sparkly dance outfit, I was probably 11.
That's for the Patreon.
Oh, God.
Patreon.
That's a really expensive tier to see me.
Jodie's old dance outfits.
My dance outfits from when I was 11.
It is amazing.
The outfits are one thing. The hair plus the outfits is a whole other. That was like right after I cut and permed my hair, and the boy I had a crush on said, "What did you do to your hair?" Heartbreaking.
You truly never recover from that. You never recover
David
from that.
Romaine. He's out there.
How dare you, David?
Yeah.
You know what you've done?
Yeah. He ruined me. He was right, though. I had nice hair, and then I got a perm.
I'm glad I missed there were kids were still getting perms when I was little, but few and far between. Yeah. Like, we'd mostly moved past it, thank God.
I can still smell the perm solution. I got perms only for 3 years, I think. Like, I got my first one in, I think, 5th or 6th grade.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Can you imagine a 6th grader now getting a perm?
That's so funny.
Oh my God. We all had them.
I love it.
We all had them. This is, I would say, a romp.
I would absolutely agree with you. This movie is a romp.
I smiled and laughed through the whole thing watching it again. And I saw, like I said last time, I saw it a few years ago, probably for the last time. But it's just like, it doesn't miss. It hits all the beats of this kind of movie. I cannot wait to hear what you think. I did get some texts from you during it, which were the expected moments, which we'll cover. But
it is so silly. It's so silly. It's silly in a really fun.
Yeah.
Again, I think I said light. I might not have said that on mic, but it's just such a light.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody is acting like they are in the 80s, which I know is an obvious thing to say, but it's we've talked about how this is a lesser version of. Let me say what I'm going to say first before I say lesser version, because it's not a judgment. I don't mean that. You'll see what I mean. We talked about Heather's kind of setting up and kind of creating a vocabulary that people then leaned into.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with Clueless. This is not that. This is a movie fully reflecting, it feels like to me anyway, the times as they were existing.
I will say, though, it did actually become a type of movie. And so I had to double check this so many times on On Google? Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
I had to Google this a number of times because I thought I was wrong. But this movie came out before Dirty Dancing.
When did Flashdance come out?
Oh, I think it was right around this time. But I am now
83.
Okay, so Flashdance was before this.
But they were still all in the same,
Yeah.
like, this is very early in that genre of dance movie.
But I am
literally
now
one of the first.
Forever going to claim that Dirty Dancing ripped off this movie.
It is such a funny...
The scene in the park where he lifts her.
That lift.
And the
I know.
lift. It's the Dirty Dancing lift.
Yeah.
Dirty Dancing ripped off this movie.
It's such a funny, not stereotype, that's not the word I want, archetype, I don't know what formula, whatever, of child with talent disapproving father.
Oh yeah it's especially girl child with disapproving, like, strict dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's, and I said girl with talent, but it's always dancing. It's always dancing.
And it's always, of course, we should stipulate that because America, it's always a white girl with mediocre talent that is praised much more highly than it deserves to be. Because in rewatching this movie again, the thing that I realized is that the Janelle Monáe looking twins at the end definitely should have won.
Should have won.
They were fucking awesome. I think I recognized that earlier than just this time, but that was like really reinforced for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the oh my God, how am I blanking on her name? Save the Last Dance.
Julia Stiles.
Thank
I was
you.
gonna say, yep, same thing.
It's the Julia Stiles thing, right? It's the, like, she kind of can dance, kind of. She's fine.
Yeah, sure.
But she's, like, hailed as this incredible force.
So funny. Also, affluent. Well, I guess in Save the Last Dance, she's not affluent, but it's, like, right side of the tracks.
Yes.
Like, you know, usually new to town, though not always, and then paired with wrong side of the tracks.
Absolutely.
Like,
yep.
Less
hunky, doesn't understand what a shirt is for. Yeah.
Look, it's a genre I love, and I thank you. Girls Just Want to Have Fun for being a pioneer, and Jodie, you for bringing
I thought you were going to thank me again.
I was, yes. But also, I'm just feeling very thankful in general.
Yeah.
Do you want to
we should
give us a little plot rundown?
I mean, it's not that complicated.
I don't know.
I feel like we just did
a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. Okay. So, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, 1985. Our friend Sarah Jessica Parker, in one of her earliest, not her earliest big role, but one of her earlier big roles. I can't say, it was big to me. It wasn't big to the culture, I think, at the time. But so I think it would actually be a lot easier for me if you told us the plot of this movie, because for me, it is so deep in my DNA that I cannot talk about it without going on 17 tangents and explaining what all of it meant to me in the meantime. So,
yeah, I like this. It's a challenge.
Yes.
So when you watch our movie next week, make sure that you're preparing your summary. Okay.
I do feel like it'll be easier.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's find out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a movie about new girl who moves into town. She's obsessed with dancing.
Janie loves to dance, Andrea.
She loves
to dance, which is pretty much how I described myself when I was that age.
Nobody in this movie has a like personality or motivation really beyond that.
No.
I think
pure.
A
pure love of the dance.
Her favorite show is auditioning for new dancers. She goes to the audition, of course, with her new friend Helen Hunt. She meets Jeff, who's a dancer from the wrong side of the tracks. Of course, the two of them hit it off. They make it to finals, and they spend the rest of the movie preparing their routine and, as you said, falling in love, ? While being kind of like pushed against on all sides by various forces that for some reason do not want them to win or dance, like Natalie, the bully who's also competing, and everybody's father. Everybody's dad. We'll talk later, I'm sure, about parents in this movie, as we often do. And then, whether you've seen the movie or not, you can probably guess they win.
Of course they win.
Is that the movie?
That's
Would you
the
say
movie.
That's the movie?
God, I love this movie. I love it so much.
You have like clearly like an unabashed?
Mm-hmm.
Which way do you say that?
I think I say unabashed.
I think I say unabashed. Why would I?
No, I think I've said it the other way too, but I think I usually say it the first way.
Well, I said it both ways, so our listeners, hashtag team. Hey, hold on, it's spelled the same.
It is.
Hashtag team unabashed, if that's how you say it. Hashtag team unabashed,
Oh, God.
if that's how you say it.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you folks.
The new internet fight. No, so me talking about this movie.
It's clear that your love is very, like, pure and ingrained.
Like,
maybe more so than any movie either of us have brought so far.
Yes, I think so. Because I think it's so pure and so easy to love. Like, there's no... The problems are so small.
Well, there's one problem.
Oh, well, there's a person who's a problem.
But in general, this is one of the lesser problematic movies we've brought to
last
the show.
week we mentioned Goonies, right? When we were talking about Radio Flyer and about how the big problem in Goonies is economic. And I think that's also in some ways the case here. It's partly like she's following her dreams, but like the real threat in the movie is when Natalie's dad threatens Jeff's dad's job.
Right. Well, and the reason that Natalie is able to be such a menace is that she can pay people off.
And does.
Like, it's all of that comes from. Yeah.
So I do think that, worst case scenario in this movie, if everything goes against what the main characters want, what happens? Janie goes to college and Jeff goes to trade school. And
it's not like they're competing for a prize that they need to save the town center or like... Or to get anybody's parents back.
Just love to dance, Andrea.
They just love
the way that she describes loving to dance is the way that I feel like I sound when I talk about this movie. Like, it's just...
And me when I talk about Pacey and or New Jersey. It's
so
uncomplicated. That the audition scene for this movie was that scene introducing herself at the school and her like taking her shoes off, so she could be more like in her little dancer pose, and the like close up on her face when she says I love to dance is what are your again, this is a complicated question to ask somebody whose introduction to Sarah Jessica Parker was this movie when you were 10 years old, right? But what are your feelings on Sarah Jessica Parker generally?
Interesting that you asked me this after last night I watched I'm so embarrassed, the latest episode of Just Like That.
Everybody's watching it. Don't be embarrassed.
It's so bad.
Is it bad? I was not a Sex and the City person.
Bad. It's so bad.
So, but you were a fan of Sex and the City?
I was. So I spent my 20s in New York City.
Right.
And so, like, of course, I had my small group of girlfriends. Like,
and which one of you was the Carrie?
And I wasn't like a super fan, so we didn't actually do that. But I do think if I had to say, I was probably a Miranda, unfortunately.
I know enough to laugh at that.
Yeah. No, but I liked the show. I liked Sex and the City. I liked seeing my life reflected somewhere.
Right.
Because like we were all single women in our 20s living in New York. And like we didn't live in fancy apartments, but we did run into Chris Noth at fucking Katz's one night. And he was drunk and sat down with us.
That's amazing.
Like,
that's amazing.
That's a true story.
I believe. What a weird thing to lie about.
Yeah, we were
to me.
Yeah.
To me. Like, I'm like, I vaguely know who that is.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Big.
It's Mr. Big, yeah. Yeah, it was like 2 a.m. We were at Katz's Deli for some reason. And he walked in, and this was during when Sex and the City was on TV. He was definitely drunk or high.
Do you think he saw a gaggle of 20-somethings and thought he was on set? He was like, this is our scene.
Yeah, maybe.
Miranda?
Maybe. He definitely sat down with us and thought that we would find him incredibly entertaining.
That's so funny.
So yeah, my relationship with Sarah Jessica Parker is complicated. I love her to death in this movie. I know that she's like kind of her character is a bit annoying and a bit cloying, more than a bit. But I think her acting in this movie is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, she's convincing.
I don't think of her as, I don't have really like serious feelings about her one way or the other.
Yeah.
I don't typically think of her as a good actor. I don't typically think of her as like a like particularly good actor. I mean, people might like me on that. I haven't watched a ton of Sex and the City,
I feel
but
like,
I just
I feel like that happens when someone plays one character for such a huge chunk of their career that you're like, is this acting or is she just capable of being this one thing?
Right. And she feels different to me in this. I think she is pretty good. I think you said she's pretty. It is pretty cloying, but she's supposed to be this like just so sweet and lovable. And I did like her. Like I found her charming.
Yeah.
I think she plays well against and in comparison to Helen Hunt. So that works too for me. Yeah. I don't, I didn't come in like ready to love her, but I liked her enough throughout the movie. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Her hair is very puffy.
It's so puffy. Those bangs.
This is so clearly pre like, TikTok hair videos where like
curly girl
exactly, because her hair is puffy.
And she as an adult has
gorgeous hair.
Like she's kind of
no, they just took a brush and brushed the shit out of it.
Right.
Thanks. No, I think maybe my relationship with Sarah Jessica Parker as an adult actor has to do with how I was introduced to her. I'm just kind of like, she can kind of do whatever. It's fine.
She's allowed.
Yeah. She was Janie.
I get that.
She loves to dance.
She loves to dance.
She loves to dance. Oh, they're so good. My favorite, like, I got so excited when this movie started and all of the things that I remembered loving as a kid started happening. Like when Helen Hunt takes off the skirt, the Catholic schoolgirl skirt, and flips it around and it's leather.
She is.
And rips off the sleeves and talks about how great Velcro is. I would argue, well, she's not a manic pixie dream girl because she's not dumb, but she is like, she has a lot of those qualities. She's irrepressible.
Yes.
She's irrepressible.
I know you said manic pixie dream girl and you said it's not quite right, but if she were playing against like Jeff in this movie, right? If she were the lead, 100%.
Yes.
Like,
but it's because she's the like sidekick character that we don't see her that way.
Yeah.
When she rips off the sleeves and wait, I have to have the exact line because it makes me laugh so hard. Velcro next to the Walkman and Tab is the coolest invention in the 20th century.
How can a movie...
That's the most 80s line that's ever been said.
How did it know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how in 1985 did it know what would be the funniest touch tones for the 1980s? It just knew.
It was
this movie is ahead of its time.
Yeah. And like at the time, I just feel like, I don't know, like I babysat kids and like, ate the food. I did not leave a baby in a pizza, but like it just was like the elevated version of what high school kind of felt like, I feel like. Even though I didn't go to Catholic school, even though, it was very common, obviously, in Jersey.
Right. You're right. It didn't feel like parts of this movie felt weirdly grounded now that you say that. In a weird kind of, maybe that's not.
Like, okay, the stakes are probably like, well, all right. I guess we understand that it's a nationally televised dance show because she's watched it in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
But like the stakes are still just like a TV dance show.
Yeah.
So imagine, okay, I think last week I said something about how, or when we talked about this movie, I made some dumb comment where I was like, yeah, they used to have shows, dance competitions on TV. They still do. I'm an idiot. Like, I know that they do.
But it's still very different. Like I was, for some reason, I got really into So You Think You Can Dance.
Oh yeah.
Like
obviously I did too.
I was going to say, it makes sense for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't really for me, but I was like obsessed and like followed those dancers for a while and stuff. But I think by the end of that show, they were competing for like $1 million.
Right.
So like the stakes were very different. And still like competition shows, like Dance TV is not a dance competition show.
Right.
It's a dance show. She had to compete to get onto
it. Right.
But once you're on it,
you're just a dancer.
Yeah. That's your gig, I guess.
Well, and there was a show just like this.
There are a ton. I mean, they're always like you said, like even from like again, my guess is that like Soul Train is probably the first, and then it got kind of like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but there was Dance Party USA. That's the one that I used to watch. I have to speed on. Have you ever seen Dance Party USA?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't sitting down to watch it, but I'm aware of it.
It's real. Like this movie, if anyone is watching this or is listening to us and watch this movie for the first time and is like, wow, this is wild. This is like a crazy concept, this show. No, this is like taken literally from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much so that if you Google Dance Fever USA or Dance Party USA, Dance Fever, I think was a different one, and watch videos on YouTube, you'll feel like you're watching like a grainier version of this movie.
Yeah, this, again, not an exaggeration in general. These like 80s stereotypes and stuff, which is interesting because it feels so saturated.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah.
The 80s were fucking wild.
Yeah, I will say just very quickly, because I can't help but give a little bit of a history lesson.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to share a couple of cool articles that I just found about the history of dance shows. And I mentioned Soul Train from obviously the 70s, but then even, and of course, but like American Bandstand.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, like this one article pointed out, like that is a kind of dance show.
Yeah.
It wasn't only that, right? But
right.
Apparently the first dance show was in 1950, the Arthur Murray Party. And Arthur Murray and his wife were apparently famous ballroom dancers.
Yes.
And they would perform a mystery dance, and the viewer who correctly identified the dance would get free lessons at a local studio.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, Arthur Murray is a famous name in the ballroom world.
So funny. And then obviously from there, American Bandstand,
right? And
then shows like Soul Train, and then into this era of dance.
Yeah.
So
storied history of
yeah, and then we can trace that. Even if you think about shows that aren't just dance competition shows, though, I think that's its own thing. But like thinking about like, you know, Star Search or like anything like that, all the way up through, or like even like Mickey Mouse Club, the like 90s version.
I miss that era. Like, I don't miss it. I missed it. I was too old for that era.
I was big into the Mickey Mouse Club reboot. And it would just be Ryan Gosling and Justin Timberlake doing dance numbers. Like, so it was a little bit of that too.
Yeah. That Ryan Gosling dance clip has been making the rounds again because of the Barbie
movie. God.
So, okay. So we've talked about the dance television part of this. I think... all I want to do is talk about Helen Hunt. Like, her character is incredible.
So fun in this movie.
And also maybe the Catholic schoolgirl part of this. Like, I feel like that was such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't play with it in the way that they could have, which would have been gross.
Yeah, no. The best part about what setting this in at least in part in a Catholic school does for us is gives us a scene of a nun on a pommel horse, which is
my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Amazing.
When you texted me, I was like, I've been waiting for you to get there.
Unbelievable.
Wait, I know I was going to save this for later, but I need to read this right now because we're talking about it. So there were some amazing articles written actually in like 2016-ish about this movie. I think it was like right after the 30th anniversary of the film. And okay, so this is from an AV Club article. 31 years later, girls just want to have fun is a ridiculous something. I don't have the title, but we'll put it in the...
It'll be in the show notes.
So, okay, I have to read this to you. It says something impressive and worrying when a young Helen Hunt wearing a coonskin cap while playing a teenage Catholic schoolgirl dragging Sarah Jessica Parker across the floor isn't even in the top 20 weirdest things about a film. It's practically glossed over, in fact, despite my desire to instantly stop streaming the movie and text every person I have ever met in my entire life and tell them about this. Which is how this is why we have this podcast, so I can do this.
Correct.
This is only the halfway point of the movie, and already I'm not sure I can handle it all. Then a nun hops on a pommel horse. It's the best. Tell me this movie isn't the best.
It's so fun.
She like hikes up her habit.
She's got her like dance tights on underneath.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's incredible. Okay, I'll save the rest of those quotes for later. But God, that's the best. Should we address the one negative in this movie that I found that I still can't escape, even with my love of it?
Yes.
It's a product of its time.
Or we could just decide that this is a movie where that character doesn't exist and
Can
not
we just
mention
write him out
at all. Do we need him in this movie?
I don't think we do.
I'm trying to think of what... It's a shame. Okay, I guess we do need to dive into... So Jonathan Silverman, who I like. I think he's pretty charming in general. Yeah. He's, Weekend at Bernie's. And his character... They tried to make his character
he's a social climber.
Right.
He's
and
nerdy.
It's a kind of character. He's nerdy. He's hanging out with his hunkier, kind of cooler friend.
Yeah.
He's the schemer.
Yeah.
That character exists in so many God, there's a million of them, but the first example I thought of for some reason was Vinny from Doogie Howser. I don't know why that was,
wow,
the
that's
counterpart
a blast from the past.
His hunky, cooler friend, Dr. Doogie Howser. Why was that the first one I thought of?
Oh, God, I did have a crush on Doogie Howser, though. I like smart people. I'm sorry. Oh, I know.
You're from Jersey. If you're going to have a crush on one of them, it's Vinny. Don't.
I know.
Come on.
Well, here's the thing, though. I knew Vinny's in real life.
That's true.
I knew lots of Vinny's. The first boy I kissed was probably a Vinny.
Oh, man. That's so funny.
But yeah, he as a character, I feel like... I mean, maybe we need someone to push Jeff, but it could have been his little sister. It could have been baby Shannon Doherty.
Or it could have been he's problematic throughout, but there are a couple of moments where he is where it's oh, we're just sexually assaulting, and it's funny. Although I will say this is not to excuse what's his name in the show in the movie.
I can never remember. He's just Jonathan Silverman to me.
Yeah. This is not to excuse him, but those kinds of quote unquote jokes and stuff. Up through the early 2000s, you know what I mean?
It didn't register for me at all at the time.
Right. So but
his character's name is Drew. I don't think I even knew. Yeah, I guess I remember.
But so
that.
They could have cut 2 scenes, and he would have just been a little annoying and a little squirrely troublemaker, and it would have been fine. He would have been annoying, but fine.
But this is also the time of movies like Porky's and
right, exactly.
all of these really gross spying on the girls through the bathroom wall things.
Yeah.
And
so in that vein, he's not the worst offender by a long shot.
But definitely stood out to me when I watched it again. I was like, oh.
Well, and especially in this movie that isn't too troublesome that way.
No, and the main characters are two kind of spunky, independent women.
Yeah.
Who are
and
fuck
Jeff's
it, we're going to do what we want.
Big baby at
Jeff
points
is
in this movie.
Baby.
But he's not he's not Christian Slater. You know what I mean?
No.
He's not Billy Loomis at all.
Yeah.
He has one moment where he's a big baby. And
I mean that affectionately. I love he's a big baby in a very refreshing way for an 80s movie because
he's got a lot of feelings for sure, which is nice.
Yeah. When you texted me about the boyfriend thing, when she accidentally or maybe on purpose calls him her boyfriend after one kiss. And we're expecting him to be oh,
Sandy, don't make me laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And instead, he's
that was a pretty good Danny Zuko. Did you know I had a John Travolta impression in there?
That was pretty good. I'm impressed.
Thank you so much.
But yeah. Instead, he's sweet.
Yeah. So I like that. But I think maybe that makes because Drew in Porky's, he'd be tame.
Mm-hmm.
Be all he did was grab somebody's chest through her sweater. Great. He didn't trick her into having sex with him.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough how much I didn't even notice that when I was a kid watching this.
Right.
We actually joked about it, I think. The Tuna Tokyo
I'm
thing
sure.
became a joke.
Of course. Yeah. Because we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But overall, it there's not a whole lot that I'm ooh, yikes about.
I think that's why I'm able to still love it so unabashedly, because like the worst of it is that, right? And then everything else is just this sort of like dreamy, like all I want is to dance. And like, oh my God. I can't be critical about this movie. I love it so much.
I understand. I will say, she's not doing a whole lot of dancing in this movie. She's doing a lot of flipping and a lot of spinning. Not a whole lot of dancing.
They win this dance contest through gymnastics.
I know that that's a thing. Like that. Like
no, it's not. Like
no, I don't mean. No, what I mean is, I have often seen it be conflated. That like just because she could do some cool flips, and they are cool flips, doesn't mean she's a good dancer. Like
and I'm just currently realizing that maybe the reason I bought it so wholeheartedly at the time was because, why can't I say this without being embarrassed? Because I was a cheerleader. And we combined
She'd
those...
be if this were a cheerleading competition, if this were Bring It On, we'd be like,
fantastic.
Oh my God.
Sold.
Yeah. Of course they won. Of course they won.
Yeah. Because that's essentially what they're kind of doing. Like, because cheerleading, even at the time, was a combination of basically dance and gymnastics.
Right.
And like,
she's doing like a great floor routine where it's like flips and then like a little spin on the side to get back into some more flips.
Yeah, and she basically teaches him gymnastics so they can win the contest.
Jodie, the one thing I struggled with most was watching them work out their routine. I was watching it through my fingers at some point.
It's very
like,
cringy.
When they're, oh my God, when he's like, well, I was thinking something like this. And he just like spin, snap. And I was like, I can't tell if we're supposed to think he's good or bad. Like, in that moment, I was like, are we learning?
I think at the time, I can say from my 10-year-old self, I think we are supposed to think he's pretty good.
He's crushing it. The two of them are a match made in heaven.
So when I texted you that there was a Jersey connection that I found, did we talk about what I meant by that?
We did, yes.
Okay.
You're so right.
Because he is trying to be Bruce Springsteen in the Dancing in the Dark video.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I went back and watched the Dancing in the Dark video with Courtney Cox and blah, blah, blah. We all know that video, or we should. It's so brilliant.
Jodie, I'm so in love with Bruce Springsteen. I know it's in my DNA and I have to be, but like listeners, if you must have seen this video. There's no way you haven't. But if you haven't, or if you haven't in a little while, go watch it with your heart open, please. And I defy you. Like, he's incredible.
Very charming. I know.
It's
like not so
difficult for me to watch. I'm like talking to you, it's on, and I'm tearing up.
You're tearing up, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, as an adult, I'm not a huge. I know I hate saying this to you of all people. I hate saying this to an audience that includes Jersey people. I know, and I'm sorry. I am not a huge adult Bruce Springsteen fan. I don't dislike him. I like him. I think he's great.
Aren't you? Wait, hold on. Am I making this up? Are you a bigger Bon Jovi fan?
I certainly in my lifetime have been a bigger Bon Jovi fan than a Bruce. Absolutely.
Oh, the hedging. Just say it. Own it.
Absolutely. But my point in saying that is to support your point, which is that you cannot watch this video without falling in love with Bruce Springsteen. Because at the time, I remember this video coming out and I was in love with Bruce Springsteen.
Of course you
watching
were.
this video. And so that is absolutely what Jeff is trying to do. Is be Bruce Springsteen, but like also with some flips.
What if Bruce Springsteen in the middle of this song
did a back handspring?
In the middle of this video, just did a back handspring.
I would love it. He could do it.
Oh God, and there's Clarence having a great time. Ugh. This video is amazing.
Nothing would surprise me less than the fact if somebody told me that Bruce Springsteen was capable of doing a back handspring in the middle of a set.
He just hasn't, but he could.
He could.
Next week, I'm just going to reveal what our pick is. It's the Dancing in the Dark video. We're just going to talk about it for 2.5 hours. And I'm not editing out a single moment.
I mean, we could make a thing out of that, I think.
That's Patreon. When we get 1 million listeners, every episode on Patreon is just the Dancing in the Dark video.
I mean, there's the Courtney Cox connection. It's a beautiful video.
It's so... And then we've got our first shot of Courtney Cox being
in her white tank top.
Oh my god.
Her little, like,
she's got a beautiful
sleeves.
and a cool dad haircut. She's got like cool short hair that's not like, it's not like punky. She just has like a reasonable haircut.
I think of it more as like the middle school teacher haircut.
Yes,
right?
Correct. 100%. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
God, look at him go. Listeners, I mean it. If you please be watching this along with us
link
right
to
now.
it in the,
absolutely, we will.
the notes. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, Bruce. I have to close this tab.
Because I was trying to think, like, okay, there have to be Jersey connections in this movie, right? There have to be.
Yeah. We don't like anything, whether we know it or not, if it doesn't have a Jersey connection.
And I will say that, like, and as soon as I saw him dance, I was like, oh, that's what it is. But I also think that there's something about the sort of, and this could get into a whole other conversation that maybe isn't interesting, but maybe is. I don't know. Definitely to us. The idea of like the suburb city thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Chicago, we've talked about it on this podcast. We've talked about it on the Jersey podcast. Like, it's not to say that, I always say Chicago and Jersey as if Chicago is a state, but I just like, I don't mean Illinois. I mean Chicago.
Yeah.
Or I guess that's not true, because I know Illinois also has that thing of like, there's Chicago and then there are the affluent suburbs that back up right against it. And then also the less, and I also know that this is typical in other places too, but it's just like, there's a particular kind of like class, both separation, but also
proximity. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is specific to certain cities. And I think Chicago is one of them. And I think there are parts of Jersey that are also, and also just like energetically, like I've only been to Chicago once.
No, I totally agree with you. But also like as somebody who grew up 45 minutes from New York and like snuck in all through high school, even though I wasn't supposed to go to the city, like
right.
I just understood instinctively what this was, like this idea of her hopping on a bus and going into Chicago with her friend, and like her dad doesn't like it because it's the city and it's scary and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, she's just like, whatever, this is just a place,
right?
Like that really reflected my high school experience of like not hopping on a bus, but like hopping in my friend's car and driving to the village to buy weed, like you know. Or like going to a New York diner in the middle of the night. Like
this is before it was $30 to cross the bridge.
Yes,
like,
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I think that's why, like,
listeners, hold on. I don't want anybody to think that I was running to New York, because then that makes it sound like I'm from North Jersey, and I can't have that. Philly was my city. Extremely easy to just hop over the bridge, much easier than it was to get to New York, I think. So in that way, I actually kind of don't have that same feeling, because Philly has always felt so close. Like some people
say what I want to say.
Some people from where I'm from will say they're from the Philly suburbs rather than saying they're from South Jersey. That's how close we are to the city. Go ahead, Jody. Say what you want to say.
No, I'm going to get so much hate.
I dare you.
I don't think of Philly as a city.
Have you been to Philly?
Yes, 1,000,000 times.
Philly is absolutely a city.
I know, but I don't think of it as one. Like in the same way as I know. I'm going to get so much shit. I'm so sorry. I know it's technically a city. I'm sorry.
Technically.
Wait, your mic just cut out for a second because you were
No, that was my voice cutting out.
I'm sorry.
I will say one thing about Philly that is maybe different from other cities is that Philly has so many different pockets. Like even just when we say like the difference between West Philly, South Philly, North Philly, but even like within those delineations, like or within those quadrants of city, like I'm where I live now, I'm technically in Philadelphia, but is this the first time I've admitted on this podcast that I don't live in Jersey right now? It's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm dealing with it. Jersey's with me wherever I go. I'm also very close. I'm very close to Jersey. But I'm technically in Philadelphia. If you came to where I live right now, you would not guess that. Like it doesn't. Yeah. I'm in a neighborhood.
That's what I mean about it not feeling like a city to me, is that it's accessible. in a way that New York City is not.
Yeah, it doesn't have that like glow and like how like
and distance, like physical.
Yeah, totally.
Like when you go into New York, you have to either, at least from North Jersey, you have to cross like the GWB, or you have to go through the Lincoln Tunnel, or you have to go through the Holland Tunnel. All three of which are like a fucking event. The traffic is terrible. It takes forever. The toll is huge. Even back then, it was too big. Like, it's
my Jersey and Philly listeners are hearing you, and what they're saying is, oh, the Ben Franklin or the Walt Whitman, which take 3 seconds to cross, and also, or the Betsy Ross or the Tacony Palmyra guys, which are like, it's like one lane, and sometimes you have to stop because the drawbridge is open, like, so one boat can get through. So
that's
like,
what
let's all relax. Like,
that's what I mean. It's so like, you know, I mean, I fucking went to college in Delaware for a year. A year I left. But like, and I spent a lot of
nobody to Delaware.
Yeah. My brother went there, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, I'll go where my brother went. He's cool.
You couldn't pay me to hang out in Delaware. No offense, Delaware, but it's not the spot. I know that UDel is a party school, but it's not the spot.
Yeah, no, it was not the spot for me either.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say, I'm sorry, Philadelphia. Please don't hate me. I don't know. All of this was to say that I related to the idea of like Chicago to your parents being the big scary city. But to you, it's just a place you go, like, to do cool shit with your friends.
Right.
You know? But the class stuff in this it's very heavy-handed.
I'm sorry,
but it's
not to harp on this, but you're so right. Because, like, I never had to
harp on it if I'm right. Go ahead. Harp away.
I never had to sneak away to Philly. I just told my mom, like, we're going to Philly. Like, I was doing that, like, probably, like, 13, you know, like 12, 13 years. Well, maybe... Probably like 13 years old. Definitely before high school. I was taking Patco into Philly. Like, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, my mom would. No. Yeah. Like, I was going into the city from probably the age of 15 or 16 with my friends that had licenses, but
your mom was not approving.
She would have fucking killed me.
Right.
I wasn't. No. And also in the 80s and early 90s, New York City was sort of like pre-Disneyfication and gentrification of like Times Square and that area and everything.
Right,
and like, you know, we don't need to get into how much sort of like racism and classism is involved in the idea of you know, calling it like a scary place. But growing up in the 80s, to us,
I mean, that's what you were being
white
told.
Kids,
right.
Yeah. To our parents, it was definitely scary. But to us, it was just like an adventure.
Right.
You know? If there was a dance show that was being filmed in New York City that I could have gotten on, I would have taken the bus into the city with my friends and auditioned for that dance show.
That's so funny.
I also kind of feel like Helen Hunt's character in this movie may be a feminist icon.
Yeah.
Like, I could make that argument. I could write a paper about it. She doesn't give a shit.
No.
She is so herself.
Yep.
She, like, has confidence in herself. She loses the dance contest because her partner is an asshole. And, like, she's mad for, like, a second. But then she's like, let's fuck shit up and, like, you know, get some revenge.
Yeah. And she
wears dinosaurs on her head.
Yeah, she's doing whatever she wants.
She's unapologetically horny.
She's unapologetically horny, which I like, but she also doesn't have a love interest, right, in this movie?
No, she doesn't.
Like, a different version of this movie, they'd be trying to pair her up with Drew the whole time.
Yeah.
And in the end, what would happen is, like, she'd be off screen, she and Drew, like, or not off screen, she'd be side stage.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff and Janie would win, they'd be celebrating, and she would grab Drew and kiss him.
Yes, that's exactly right. And she does
but
it.
Instead,
she
no.
Fucking Ricky. Iconic. That's what I mean. She doesn't need sort of a male character to play off of.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, she's just... You know what's a really funny bit? Is when she shows up to pick up... Jeff's little sister, and she's hanging upside down, and her hair is hanging down.
That's
but
when
then
she's picking up Janie.
Oh, right. When she goes to pick up Janie, and she's hanging upside down, and her hair is sticking. It's like hanging down, but then she flips up, and her hair is still standing up.
It's such a good bit. It's such a good bit. I loved it.
That's extremely good. She rules. She really does.
She really does. Like, I cannot express to you how, it's going to sound so corny, how meaningful it can be to have a female character in a film from that time that fully gives no shits.
Yeah.
Like,
that doesn't sound corny at all. I think you're
she
so
doesn't
right.
care.
No.
And she's a proactive person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Natalie nearly hits them with her car, right? She goes over like she's going to start a fight with Natalie.
So funny.
And then instead, like, checks her hair in the mirror.
Uh-huh.
And Natalie is so humiliated that she wages a war against her friend Janie the entire movie. And I'm so excited that we haven't talked about the debutante ball scene yet, because it's my favorite thing that's ever happened on film.
It is unbelievable.
I guess we should talk about it now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So if you didn't watch the movie before
my Super Sweet 16.
Yeah. Again, I had a Sweet 16 party. Like, not like, it was literally it was at a VFW hall.
I was going to ask if it was at a VFW hall.
It's at a VFW hall.
The only Sweet 16s I ever went to were VFW halls.
Yeah. But I just have such joy thinking about this scene. Okay, so for those that didn't watch the movie before listening to this, Natalie is about to have a debutante ball, which is a strange thing for me to think about in Chicago in the 80s, but sure.
Once you get rich enough, time doesn't really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and location,
when you're
I guess. I think of that as a Southern thing, but I don't know. What do I know? And so for some reason, she invites Jeff and Drew to come to this, even though apparently she's maybe just met them. I don't know. I don't know the connection there.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
But the girls get their hands on
hold on. She doesn't invite Drew. She invites Jeff.
Right.
And Drew decides
Invites
he's coming
himself.
along. Yeah.
Yeah. But Jeff's little sister, played by Shannon Doherty, in my favorite Shannon Doherty role, finds Janie.
Has she been in... I'm sorry, has she only been in 2 of our movies, or has she been in a 3rd? Why do I feel like...
I think it's only This and Heathers, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Feels like she was in everything back then, but...
yeah, maybe that's why.
So she finds Lynn and Janie in the mall. Again, another classic mall scene.
It's so fun, the things that keep... Again, I talk about it every week, but our little, like... I keep calling it our vocabulary. It's not really right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, recurring themes
elements.
And yeah.
And that Amal has been in almost every single one of them at this point.
As it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
But so she finds them, and they go off on this adventure. They make 150 copies of the invite.
Another perfect...
At a copy store that happens to be in the mall.
So good.
And then the best montage that's ever happened, where they run through town.
I love this. I was like smiling so big watching this. It's so good.
I was nearly crying. I was so excited. Handing out the invites to every 80s type that you can imagine. So there's like the punks outside with their Liberty Spikes, and like they're just delightful punkness. There's the female bodybuilders. Incredible.
If it wouldn't be disruptive to the audio, I'd be clapping right now. The way they come out and lift a car up to get to it's just like, they're amazing. They're amazing.
The new wave folks. And it becomes a musical number. Not like a musical number where they're singing and dancing, but like...
No, but this movie is almost a musical.
It is almost a musical. So they pass out all of the invites. And we go to the debutante party with the dad saying like, now no one gets in without this invitation. And you're like, haha, not a problem. And the most delightful chaos ever recorded on film.
I know that it's cool. And that's why it happens. But why does that person enter? If you have an invitation, why did you enter with a front flip through a window? It's so destructive.
Drama.
It's also like, all you got was an invitation. It's not like, do you know what I mean? Yes. It's not like the whole, I mean, and we see it in the montage, so we know this is the case. They don't know why they're being invited, really.
No.
And so that your first thought is, and you know how I'm going to enter?
I'm gonna fuck shit up.
Just big time.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it.
Yeah. Well, okay, my argument, if we're taking this seriously, which I don't know that we should, but if we are, is that...
I think we absolutely should.
is that the way that person is dressed, had they presented the invitation at the door, I don't think that the country club is actually going to let them in.
Probably would have been turned away, yeah.
So they had to.
Yeah. The flyer was just to get them there so they knew where they were going.
It was the only option.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're right. You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Correct.
So we get this sort of like Twisted Sister sounding soundtrack for this moment.
So good. This
song called Wake Up the Neighborhood.
So good. Everybody's so cool.
There's so many fun moments. There's the chicken foot moment. When the guy's like, I've seen this movie too many times. When he's like walking on the table and he sticks his foot in a chicken and then starts walking with it on his foot and like waving it around. Known as chicken foot.
Just a lot of bits. Known as chicken foot. In what circles is this known as? Okay, in the Jodie circle.
Me, the circle that I'm sitting in right now. The female bodybuilders turning the couple on the couch around.
I was tickled. It's just like they're just there to be strong.
Yeah, and lift things for other people. They're just they're selfless.
I love them.
They're selfless. I love this scene so much. And we see like the girls outside the window kind of watching, and we see Jeff and Drew, whatever. We see Jeff look outside and see that it's them, and he like gains a new respect for
Janie like points to herself like, yeah we did it.
Yeah.
That's us.
Taking full credit. But this is what turns Natalie's dad against them fully. Because before that he's kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll help you with your dumb dance contest, okay. And now he's pissed. Because they ruined his hair.
Yeah, he gets covered in, what is it? Some kind of sludge.
Blueberry something. Like turns his white hair blue.
The like freeze frame of his face where he is just frozen in rage, covered in that blue stuff laying on the ground is so funny.
Yeah.
It's so cartoonish. It made me laugh out loud.
I don't know if you saw this, but there is a uncredited cameo by Robert Downey Jr. in that scene.
No way!
He's one of the punks. He's the punk that like is under the table when it flips.
Whoa.
Yeah. But so after that moment is where the class dynamics really get like brought up, because we're like, oh, the dad is going to get fired from his job if he doesn't not go to the contest and dance in it, because they're so good that they're a threat. Yeah.
They're such good dancers.
But this to me is one of my favorite, like, sort of surprising, I guess, given the time frame of the movie, turns in the movie, which is Jeff's dad. I fucking love Jeff's dad.
Yeah.
Jeff's dad is a sweetie.
He's great. Even early on, you like, when he comes home, you're waiting the first time you meet him.
Yeah. You assume he's going to be mean dad.
Yeah. Because he's blue collar, hardworking dad. And because Jeff's sister has made dinner.
Yeah.
And the first thing Jeff does is hands him a beer. And so you're expecting like a king, like kind of, maybe obviously not to that degree of Radio Flyer, but I was primed for Jeff to have a mean dad who is directly getting in the way. Yeah.
You know, maybe dead. We don't know.
But he's just a tired dad who works really hard. And so his kids are kind of helping out at home. Like it's really sweet.
He's a sweetheart. And when he finds out that Jeff is like, you know, gonna sacrifice his dancing dreams because he's afraid of his dad losing his job, his dad's like, can you win? This is his hero moment. Can you win?
Can you win?
Yes.
It is really good. And
I wrote in all caps, yeah, he can win. I also wrote, yeah, he's such a good dad.
He's
so
really
proud of his son. I got all like choked up at the end when they're in the bar and he's like, that's my kid. I think the parents in this are interesting because the big obstacle is her dad. But as soon as her dad sees her dancing, he's like, oh, but she's good. Look at my daughter.
Which, it's, again, that's another one of those tropes where it's like, oh, you're happy to support the dream when you can tell it's good. And it's also like, have you never paid attention to your child before this?
Probably
like
not.
You're so concerned with her like schoolwork and all of that. But
I don't think that before that we ever really get he's a strict dad, but we don't ever get a sense that he's necessarily, at least in the context of the time, a quote unquote bad dad.
Yeah,
he's
he's
not mean,
don't
he's
think
not
so.
abusive. He's just
well,
strict.
I think that's what is surprising to me is he's so involved.
Yeah.
But doesn't know what a quote unquote how good she is at backflips.
Yeah. Yeah.
He sent her to a Catholic school where the nurses where he sent her to a Catholic school where the nuns are so good at gymnastics that they're just ready to do a routine at any moment. Like, he should know that she's got this skill.
But I do think that there is some, I don't think they expect us to take this movie this seriously, but if we look at the text of the movie, he has just retired from the army.
Mm-hmm.
So up until recently, he was on active duty.
He was very busy.
He was a very busy man. He has now just recently retired and apparently has a lot of time on his hands because he's painting toy soldiers and checking on her homework and all of that.
That's a really, genuinely, that's a good point. You're right. So
I do think that we're led to believe that, like, this is the first time he's kind of been able to notice his children.
Yeah, it is. We talk so much about parents on this show. And, like, they are, because even Natalie's dad, he's, you know, a villain because he's rich and therefore, in my eyes, that makes him a villain. And he's supporting his shitty daughters, like,
and he threatens to fire Jeff's dad so his kid can win.
But all of that comes from a place of wanting to support his daughter. And when he really realizes she's an asshole, he tells her as much. Like, even he's not, you know what I mean? Like, nobody in this movie other than Natalie is really that nefarious.
I think they also give him a little bit of a backstory where he says something about how, like, he started, like, he said something about how he was like Jeff, where, like, he started poor or something.
Yeah, there is that scene he talks about. Because he, like, in a kind of shitty way, doesn't he offer does he offer Jeff a job too at some point?
He makes it seem like he's offering him a job or a possibility of a job, and then he says, "Oh, I could always use a good caddy."
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's shitty. Again, rich guy shit.
Yeah. But the parents in this movie they're both not as absent as we're used to, and also not as stereotypically shitty as we're used to.
Yeah, which we have said are the two kind of parents you can have in movies. Like,
in the middle somehow, which I think makes them a bit more realistic.
Totally.
Yeah.
It is, it's funny. This is definitely our lightest movie. It definitely seems like the least, like, I don't know what, I, like, both of us at the beginning of this were like, I don't know really what we're going to talk about. But at the same time, it is, in a lot of ways, the most realistic that we've encountered.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because oh, God. But I also just want to mention, she doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, but Janie's mom is so cute. And so sweet when they're watching her on TV, and, like,
I don't remember Janie's mom.
Yeah, Janie's mom is, like, she's just.
Why don't I remember her at all?
Oh, because as was the case in movies like this, where the father figure is the, like, really strict one, she's kind of retiring. She's, like, a little bit takes a back seat to the disciplinary stuff. But when she and Janie's little brother, who we also haven't talked about yet, who I fucking love with the walkie-talkies and the warnings, when they're watching Janie on TV and her mom is so visibly glowing and proud of her daughter, it's so sweet. And she also mentions to Janie's dad before he storms off to go find her, she mentions, like, oh, when they used to dance together.
I have no memory of Janie's mom. This is crazy.
I feel like that scene when they're watching, when Janie makes it to the studio and they're standing next to the host, and that's when the parents realize that she's escaped, basically, and is there. You see the dad freak out and get mad, and you see the mom be, like, kind of instantly proud and relating to, like, Janie's love of dance.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
It's so sweet.
I see her.
it's so sweet. She doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, but she is clearly like a good mom.
Mm-hmm.
And like kind of wants to let Janie like do what she loves.
Right.
I found the comment about when they used to dance really sweet and heartwarming.
Yeah. Aw.
I'm realizing that maybe this is the movie where I got the idea that you could light hairspray with a lighter and use it as a blowtorch.
Well, it's true, right?
Yeah. Oh, I used to do it all the time.
It just is maybe your first
exposure to that idea. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, my best friend Amy and I used to light dry leaves on fire with hairspray and a lighter.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been this movie. It could also be that when you were born in New Jersey, there are certain skills that just come down, like pre-downloaded.
Certain gifts
one of them
you were
is
given by birthright.
Exactly, and one of them is homemade tools for arson.
Yeah, that's true.
True. It could have gone either way.
Yeah, that's true. Should we talk about the stunt doubles in this movie? Even the photograph behind you, that's clearly not the same
What do you
guy.
mean the photograph behind me? I'm on location
right,
at Hence
sorry.
TV.
Even the two people clearly dancing behind you, but paused. That's not the same guy. Like,
no.
The stunt doubles in this movie are not subtle.
No, and it's... I wonder if it's a product of the time that they were just like, well, everything looks like shit on screen anyway, nobody's going to be able to tell.
Yeah.
Or if they really thought they were killing it, because...
They're not even close.
They're not even close. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the old, not old, it reminds me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, whenever Sarah Jessica Parker?
Oh.
Whenever they would cut from, like, Sarah Michelle Gellar to her stunt double doing a million backflips and then back to, Sarah Michelle Gellar. It is so obvious and so funny. And I love it.
Yeah. I love it
I'm just tickled by it.
I cannot express the joy that I still feel at that. Not the final dance number where it's a dance off.
Right.
But the montage of the finalists where it's like that song, I could be making this up. But I don't think I am. I do think that my cheerleading squad did a routine to that song.
Or if they didn't, they did it to a version of that song.
No,
it's
pretty
such
sure.
a, like, 80s montage song.
Yeah. The one friend of mine from childhood that I know listens to this wasn't on the cheerleading squad with me, but her cousin was. I wonder if she has any memory of this. Lori, let me know.
What's up, Lori?
Yeah. No, but I do think we did a routine. Either my cheerleading squad did, or I made one up myself. I can't remember which. Don't laugh at me.
I wasn't. Who laughed?
I was so sincere.
I know. I believe it.
Okay. So we have two things that I want to cover still. One is I would like to, and I don't know if this is going to become a regular thing, but sometimes the writing about these movies is just so good.
Yeah.
That I feel like there's a few things that I want to read to you.
Totally.
But then we need to talk about the remake.
Okay.
But first, let me read you a couple of these.
Yes, please.
Okay. First of all, before I even do that, this movie was named after the Cyndi Lauper song, but Cyndi Lauper did not allow them to use her version of it, which I think is really funny. She was like, I don't know about you guys.
It didn't occur to me that the song is not in the movie.
It's not. Well, like no, it is, but not Cyndi Lauper's version.
Wait, there's a cover?
So basically, Cyndi Lauper's song was originally written by someone else in 1979 and performed by someone else.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Cyndi Lauper's version is a cover?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I know. So here, let me get the facts on this real quick. Okay. Here we go. Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a song made famous by Cyndi. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm like ruining your life right now. Is a song made famous by Cyndi Lauper 4 years after it was written by Robert Hazard.
Now, apparently I just blocked really important stuff out of this movie because I don't even remember hearing a different version of it in the movie.
Yeah, it's played a couple of times, I think. It's played when they're handing out the flyers.
Oh, is that...
Yeah.
What is the matter with me?
Well, because it's not Cyndi Lauper's voice.
Right, so I just was like... It
sounds different.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it sounds different. So yeah, it is not the version that we're used to hearing. Okay. So and some of these reviews are from the past like 5 years or so, or 10 years. So they're kind of looking back at it the same way we are. I love a good, well-worded insult.
Yeah.
And I think I can take it with this movie because I know that it has no flaws.
Right.
Other than Drew. But from that same article in the AV Club that I just read you, Dance Like No One's Watching takes on a new meaning in this movie, which features people dancing not only as though no one was watching, but also if they've never seen dancing in their lives and were instructed to make it up from scratch.
That rules.
In talking about the tryout, it says, it's difficult to say how this tryout was organized, but it's executed with the smooth precision of a mass lemming suicide.
Oh my God.
This writer, I have to credit this writer. Hold on, I've got to open this article. Alex McLevy. Incredible
It
writing.
does feel a little bit to me like a county fair.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
does.
like, if this were like, hold on, I'm listening to this Robert Hazard version of this song, and it's cool.
Right?
It's got a little bad. Yeah, it's like kind of punky than it's like, I guess the assumption is that even though it's a nationally televised show, it's a very Chicago thing, so the only people coming out were locals, I guess. Yeah. But that wouldn't
they basically set up a stage in a park.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be the case for a nationally televised dance show, right? Wouldn't everybody who loves to dance?
Okay, here's what I'm going to say about that, because I just started thinking about this when you brought this up. In the 80s, pop stars gave mall concerts.
Yeah, they did.
Like Tiffany showed up at the malls.
I mean, that happened through, like, Destiny's Child performed at the Echelon Mall.
Right.
Like, that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tiffany went to, like, Garden State Plaza or Paramus Park or something. Like, so I do think that there is something maybe fitting about that sort of slapdash feeling.
And, like, hyper local.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think it makes some sense.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
We don't know how many other televised dance shows there were that were setting up stages in other parts of the country. Who knows?
I mean, you know, if we think about like the American Idol generation of singing shows, I think that, I mean, they were just held in hotels. Like, I mean, it's not that far off, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That article, there's also a sentence that reflects what you were bringing up earlier, which is she wins a dance competition by doing gymnastics, which even in 1985, I'd wager were understood to be two separate things.
Yeah. Well, because it is like, I guess, because you're like, okay, it's a dance competition. How do you prove? Because you want everybody to be good, because you want it to be a competition. So then it's like, how do you make her dance better for the common audience? Where I'm like, I'm not looking at how she's pointing her toes. Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
She can do flips.
She does so many flips.
Yeah. There's also a review from like 2013 in Vulture that says the aesthetic. So talking about Jeff and his sort of like archetype. That says the aesthetic particularities of the dancing bad boy vary, but he always hates sleeves.
That's also very Bruce. I feel like maybe that's part of what.
Definitely. I mean, there is
he has sleeves in Dancing in the Dark. They're just rolled up because he's so cool.
He is. I mean, the AV Club article does reference the Dancing in the Dark video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. It says Jeff is essentially the embodiment of a tough guy 80s kid with a 25-year-old Montgomery playing the high schooler. They were all old in this movie.
Yeah.
As a cross between Patrick Swayze and Dirty Dancing, which wasn't out yet. And Bruce Springsteen in the Dancing in the Dark video.
Totally.
Complete with both those guys' moves. It wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
This is a ripoff of Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing is a ripoff of.
That's what I meant. I'm getting so like.
Yeah, you're really worked up about this.
Really worked up to the point where I'm like messing my words up. So, should we talk about the remake? I did not know this was happening until I rewatched this movie this week and then was doing some research for us. And I found out that there is a remake in the works, or at least it has been since before the strike started.
Can we just real quick?
Yeah.
Can we just maybe Dancing in the Dark 1984. So maybe every dance movie ever from 1985 on is really just a ripoff of Dancing in the Dark. Have we considered that?
I'm perfectly fine with that idea.
Anyway, continue.
Because of that timing, that also reinforces my statement that he is just trying to be Bruce Springsteen in that video.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
also, I'm so sorry. I do have one more little thing. Lee Montgomery just disappeared from acting.
Yeah.
He did this
he's
and
off
like
the face
one
of the
other
earth.
thing, and now he's a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And he's perfectly fine in this movie. He's not like a standout, but he does fine.
He's not great, but he's okay.
But I'm kind of surprised he didn't get snatched up to play a version of this character in 5 or 6 more movies over 5 or 6 years. Like
he looks so much like Blossom's brother.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell's that guy's name?
Joey Lawrence. He does. He does look like Joey Lawrence.
He's a very Joey Lawrence type.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
to the
that's
point
why.
Where I think at some point I was confusing them in my head.
I can see that.
Yeah. But so, okay. Article from the Hollywood Reporter from only a few months ago, from April 2023 by Boris Kit, I guess, says, girls just want to have fun getting remake treatment from Elizabeth Banks and L-Word Generation Q boss. I saved that reveal. I don't know if you'd seen that.
Oh. Does that mean it's going to be...
That's what I'm wondering.
Q?
Because Helen Hunt, I could also argue, is a queer icon in this movie.
In the way that I want to argue that any woman who is cool in a movie, for me, is a queer icon.
Exactly.
I absolutely agree. And then also, I just kind of agree.
Yeah. So Marja Lewis Ryan, who was a showrunner on L-Word Generation Q, is co-writing the script with Ali Romano, who is a staff writer and executive story editor, also on Generation Q.
Wouldn't it be insane of them then to have these people like attached to this movie and have it not be a queer movie? It's also so fun and kind of campy to call it Girls Just Want to Have Fun and have it be like a queer romance.
Yeah.
Oh my God, where the people competing are two instead of Jeff, it's just another woman. It's Janie and
Natalie?
Oh, that's fun. Well, hold on now. That's a different movie, but I was thinking Helen Hunt.
Well, so, but I think that, like, this movie that we just watched would have been improved only by some sexual tension between Helen Hunt and Sarah Jessica Parker.
Correct.
Which there really wasn't any.
No.
I would argue. But
no. But there could have been.
Mm-hmm. Or sexual tension, well, which there might have been, between Helen Hunt and Natalie.
Yeah, it's almost there. Like,
it's almost there.
Uh-huh.
It's getting there. So if this is the only way I think they could remake this movie and I wouldn't be furious, is if they made a queer version.
Yeah, if you just cut Jeff and Drew out of this movie.
Or give Jeff a love interest.
Oh, that's nice.
Who's not a girl.
Right.
I could see. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is starting to work for me now. Because I was angry when I first saw this. I was less angry when I saw Elizabeth Banks because I do know that she has sort of a very offbeat sensibility to her. I mean, she was involved with a lot of the Christopher Guest movies. Like, that's the part of her pedigree that I think of more so than,
Hunger Games
or whatever, or Hunger Games, which to me I don't think about very often. Right. So
yeah,
the Christopher Guest connection made me feel a little better about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't write something off because she's attached to it, certainly. Like,
no, definitely not. And I think to me it was a little bit encouraging because if they had said, oh, it's by X, Y, and Z Hollywood person that I don't have any positive associations with, I would have been like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But so,
I did just watch The Beanie Bubble accidentally.
Oh.
So.
I haven't watched it.
It was
Do
not.
I need to?
I don't.
Oh, wait, maybe I did. There was a dark period where I was under the weather where I watched a bunch of Netflix documentaries. It's
not a documentary, which I thought.
Oh, it's the movie version. I didn't see that. Okay.
It is I don't. If I tell you to watch it, it's not because I think it was good necessarily. It was so peculiar. It was. We put it on as a joke. We were looking for something to watch. Me and my roommate while we were like eating lunch one day or something, and they put it on because I like jokingly was like, oh, we're gonna watch the Beanie Baby movie, and then just over the course of 3 days, anytime we were both in the living room together, just watched it. And it's like Zach Galifianakis plays Ty, the Beanie Baby guy in it, and I didn't realize for the first 20 minutes. You truly would have no idea.
Wow. Interesting.
It is so and Sarah Snook is in it, and
what?
Yeah, the cast is wild. It's Elizabeth Banks, Sarah Snook, Zach Galifianakis.
I mean, for that cast, I might actually watch it.
It was one of those things where I was like, there must be some like.
Yeah.
It is.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. You might. I mean.
Interesting. So from that same article.
Anyway.
Oh, sorry. No. That's interesting though. So from that same article, it says the remake hopes to keep the celebration of female friendship, the humor and the heart friendship, plus the dance numbers. And so, so a little bit more about one of the people from L Word Generation Q, whose name again is, I want to make sure I get this right, Marja Lewis Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
She acted as one of the creators of the revamped L Word. She was the showrunner, main writer, and main director. Also wrote and directed the 2018 Netflix drama Six Balloons. Have you heard of this?
No, I don't know what that is.
I haven't either, but it starred Abby Jacobson.
Oh!
Favorite of, I think, both of us.
Yes.
And Dave Franco.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe I'll check that out, because I love Abby Jacobson. And then Elizabeth Banks is coming off producing Cocaine Bear, which I haven't seen, but I'm just delighted that it exists. So yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take for that to come about, especially with the writer's strike, but I think that is an interesting development.
Yeah, I'll be curious about it either way.
Yeah, it's still in the early days. It says, another article said we don't have news yet as to who will be reprising Hunt or Parker's roles, much less the rest of the cast. Okay, question for you, because I haven't really thought about this much yet myself, but I would be curious to know who do you have like a dream casting for a 2023 version of this movie?
That's hard because I don't know too many young actors. So
I know. After I asked you that, I was like,
in my head, I'm like, I don't. Samantha
Helen Hunt and Jessica Parker.
I'm like Sophie Nélisse and like I have no
those
idea.
are really the only young actors I know too. The Yellowjackets.
But young Nat, Sophie Turner as
Helen Hunt.
As Helen Hunt. What is her actor's name? Or the character's name? You've said
Lynn.
It 5 times, I think. Lynn. Lynn, and like
Very
Sophie
80s
Nélisse as I think they're both dancers, right?
They're so serious though in other things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it would be fun to see them do that.
Yeah.
I think Sammy Hanratty as Helen Hunt's character, she has the kooky factor.
We're typecasting.
I know
her now and just being like any quirky offbeat.
Yeah,
but she probably would be great. But yeah, I genuinely don't know enough young actors. I'm like Zendaya. I have no idea.
I know. I don't either. I don't either.
So,
there is a Vulture article called "How 1985's Girls Just Want to Have Fun Set the Template for All Future Dance Movies," which I think we might want to link to also, considering your original little dive into the history of this.
Yeah, as always, there'll be lots of stuff in the show notes for listeners who want to dive in.
Yeah. Yeah. They refer to Sarah Jessica Parker's character as the prototypical dance movie protagonist, a sheltered girl who longs only to dance and experience life in spite of her disapproving elders.
What would a movie like this be where the parent, I mean, we kind of have a version of it, like he's barely disapproving. Like,
yeah, he is barely disapproving.
Like a movie where they're just super supportive.
I mean, then conflict.
I was going to say, then what would the conflict be?
You need some conflict.
Yeah.
I feel like I could watch this again right now and be happy. So, yeah, I don't know that I have much else to say about this movie other than Mirror Image should have won. But other than that, and minus Drew, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of can't disagree with you. Because this movie isn't trying to be anything other than what it is. And I think some of the movies that I like, Radio Flyer, for example, I I can admit, like, was trying to be something other than what it ended up being, for sure. And this movie just isn't that. It had a mission, and it, mission accomplished, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think, last week, I think a part of our conversation was about why, even though it had so many moments where it missed, it still had an emotional resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And what were the aspects of it that made it significant to you, even despite some of the reservations.
Right.
I think when we watch this movie, there is no doubt why it would be resonant for me, a young dancer / cheerleader / whatever gymnast.
Exactly, yeah. In 1985, totally.
In 1985, who loved to dance.
Mm-hmm. You love to dance, Jodie.
I still love to dance. It has not left me. We have talked about how I spent my 20s in the sort of neo-swing movement
so funny.
in New York. So embarrassing, but so I don't care.
You a big Squirrel Nut Zippers fan? You a big
I kind of was, but
Cherry
I definitely
Pop and
quickly
Daddy's
became
fan.
But see, I quickly became one of those purists who was like, no, only big band. Only
that
Duke
makes
Ellington.
So much sense.
Only Duke Ellington. Only like the real deal. None of this bullshit neo-swing thing. Put away your stupid shoes and just focus on the dancing. I don't care about your clothes. How is your connection?
Amazing.
Did you watch Hell's a Poppin'? Do you know who Frankie Manning is? Like, yeah. I was that person.
This is very Jodie. This is just very Jodie.
I immediately went into research mode.
Exactly.
But for what it's worth, if you have any interest in dance, watching Frankie Manning and Hell's a Poppin' and the dance scene in it, incredible. Absolutely fucking incredible. Some of the best dancing you'll ever see in your life.
Can I link to that?
Yes. Not in this movie, some of the best dancing you'll ever see in your life, but the Hell's a Poppin' scene.
Oh, the whole movie from 1941 is on
YouTube.
Yeah.
Or
also, Helza space Poppin' would be a great drag name.
Yes, it would. It sure as fuck would. But yeah, the dance scene in this movie is iconic and wonderful. And Frankie Manning was a legend.
What if you made us watch Hell's a Poppin'?
Oh my god. I've only ever seen the dance scene. I've never watched the whole movie.
Extra credit for our listeners.
Yeah. I danced with Frankie Manning at one of his birthday parties.
I don't know who Frankie Manning is, but this is very exciting.
It was. His birthday parties, I think it was his 91st that I danced with him at. Yeah, he died when he was 90, almost 95. Wow. He died right before our 95th celebration that we were holding for him.
2009.
Yeah. At his 91st, I think it was. Every year when they had a birthday party for him in his like late 80s, early 90s, he would dance with in a birthday jam, the number of partners that was his age. So he danced with 91 women in his birthday jam, and I was one of them.
That's amazing.
Isn't that the sweetest thing you've ever heard? He was so nice.
I love that.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Whitey's Lindy Hoppers.
That is
shout out to them.
Amazing.
So should we talk about next week?
Yeah, I don't think we've got any real Yellowjackets news. There was a tiny little thing that I saw where Karen Kusama was quoted talking about season 3 and how it seems like it got taken up as she teased that they would be looking at the immediate aftermath of the rescue in season 3, which we're really hoping for. But it seems more like what she really said was like, that's something she's really interested in exploring.
Right.
So hopefully that translates
because no writing has been done.
Right.
We know that because they had just basically had like day 1 of the writer's room when the strike happened. So
I feel like we should check in, and that's the only check-in I really have.
Yep. I would just like to say in that conversation, fuck the AM, whatever they are, AMPTP, the people the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers that are the reason that the writers can't get normal concessions from this strike. And I need this to be over because I need content. And I'm fully on the side of the writers and the actors in this. I think we've made that clear. So fuck the AMPTP. Also, they have the worst logo I've ever seen.
That's the real crime here.
It's terrible.
It does seem as somebody who...
Have you seen it? Wait. Have you seen their logo?
I'm sure that I have from just...
I'm putting it in the chat. Well, I'm putting a link to it in the chat.
It looks like an old like bad like record like
ska band.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Doesn't it?
That's exactly it. I was trying
checkerboard.
I was trying to get there.
It?
I was like some like weird old label that like yeah, it's bad.
No, it looks like the logo of some ska band that I would have like gone to see in the 90s.
Yep. It also is so like all of this has been so dirty and underhanded in the way it's being handled, in a way that like I know like anytime you put workers up against the people who are benefiting off of them, it's going to be that. But like as someone who comes from like when I was teaching, being part of a union, that there are still rules. Like there are common decency stuff, even down to like, did you see that bit about one of the studios trimming the trees to like, and then lying and saying it's something that happens every year, and then every arborist in California being like, no, it's not, you're lying. Yeah. Like, come on.
I know. It's so dirty. Yeah. It's so gross. I was also a part of a union at one point, and I find this really disgusting. So
so get your shit together.
Yes. Get a better logo. Because that's clearly the real problem.
I mean, that's a problem of many.
So what are we watching, Andrea?
Yeah, so this week I kind of just went with my heart. I'd been like...
Which is what I asked you to do.
Yeah, because I've been texting back and forth with you being like, do we think that the follow-up should be another 80s? Like, should it be another, like, rom-com? Do we... Right. Or not a rom-com. Should it be, like, light like this? I don't want to bring people down with another radio flyer. Yeah. And so I just picked one that, like, I've brought up on this show talking about Yellowjackets sometimes in terms of, like, the dark humor. Mm-hmm. In Yellowjackets, and this isn't exactly that, but this is a movie that I saw. It came out in 92. I saw it in theaters because, again, my family would take me to see anything. It just wasn't something we were really thinking about. So I was 6 years old when I saw this movie, probably too young, but it fundamentally like changed the wiring in my brain to find certain things funny and interesting. Mm-hmm. Jersey connection is very obvious to start.
Excited for that.
We're watching the 1992. I think black comedy is appropriate, and I guess Heathers is the only other one that we've watched so far that you would call black comedy. Yeah, right?
I think this movie came up in conversation at the very beginning when we were talking about what movies we might want to watch that had some connection to Yellowjackets, and the black comedy, dark comedy part, that the sort of thread that brought us to Heathers also brought us to this.
And it's Death Becomes Her, which
I'm excited. My only knowledge of this movie is the poster.
It's a great poster.
It's a very very memorable poster.
This movie, I love this movie still genuinely so much. I've seen it probably in the last 10 years, so I remember it pretty well. This isn't going to be a radio flyer issue. Starring Goldie Hawn, who is lovely.
Love Goldie Hawn.
Meryl Streep, Jersey, which is Jersey.
Yeah, that's our Jersey. Right.
Bruce Willis, Jersey.
Okay, nice.
And some other people, but they're the three who matter most.
Yes. And
it's a black comedy. I'm not even going to tell people what it's about, really.
I'm not going to read anything.
It's a black comedy with some, sort of some fantasy-ish elements. And it's a romp and a hoot and a holler in its own way, I would say.
I can't wait.
It's a pre-bald Bruce Willis, so that's fun.
Whoa.
He's definitely playing against Bruce type, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about it. I love this movie a lot.
Yeah, I'm not going to read anything. I'm just going to watch it.
And you can watch it,
it's free on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you can watch it in a few different places. It's free on Amazon Prime, but then you can also pay to rent it on YouTube and Redbox and Vudu and lots of other places. It's well worth your $3.99, I would argue. In a way that I apologized in a way if I made you spend $3.99 to be bummed out with Radio Flyer. I don't feel that way with this. I say spend the $3.99 if you don't have a Prime account. But yeah, if you watch it and spend the $3.99 and really hate it, email me and I'll No, I won't give you that $3.99 back, but I'll apologize.
There you go. There you go.
And if you do want to email us, we're at watcherspodnj@gmail.com.
Yes, we are.
Where else can they find us?
We're also on Instagram and Twitter. I will not call it X.
Nope.
And we are on Twitter for as long as Andrea is willing to be on Twitter, because I'm basically not really there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know that I posted about the episode this week over there. I mean, I'll leave the account and...
Yeah. But at WatchersPodNJ on both of those places.
Yeah, Instagram is definitely the place to really find us and interact for now.
Yeah, come follow us on Instagram. Andrea makes these reels and things that delight me endlessly with their little comedy masterpieces of their own. I've watched the cow one like 27 times. So come give Andrea some appreciation for her video editing skills.
Hey, thank you so much.
They're like my favorite thing that come out every week.
Well, thank you. I'm not good at it, but it's very fun, and I would
disagree.
I think that comes through. I think
that there is a comedic timing that you are not admitting you have when it comes to video editing.
No, well, thank you,
Canva. So,
listeners, feel free to watch all of them and let me and or Jodie know which one of us is right or wrong.
So fucking funny. Okay. So yeah, and then my Instagram is just Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM. If you care at all about like fiber arts, come find me there.
That's where all of your cool art is.
Yes.
I'm at AQAndreaQ. I post about my cat and my dog and the 12 different podcasts I work on, including, guess what I can say today?
Yay! I'm so excited for you.
I am officially the producer of Beautiful Anonymous, because the show has gone independent with Stitcher shutting down and Earwolf. The first episode with me at the wheel. I've been working on that show for their live shows for the last like year and a half. Mm-hmm. And so it, I think Geth thought it made sense for me to just kind of pick up the slack there that has opened up. And we had our first episode also up today. You can hear, if you are someone who has listened to Beautiful Anonymous in the past, I would say now's a great time to jump back on. We're like refreshing a whole lot of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff in the works that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks. And
I'm so excited about this.
It's gonna be so fun. I'm really, really excited to be part of it. And Geth breaks down everything that happened that kind of led to Beautiful Anonymous going independent in the first few minutes of the episode. So yeah, check it out anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's one of the shows. And then of course, Left of the Dial and New Jersey's the World. And any of the other shows I work on. If you're, I never plug these, have I?
I don't think you have.
I also produce a show called I Don't Get It. If you're like a fan of the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise, that's the Iaconetti sisters and their friend Naz Perez. It's very fun. And a bunch of other stuff over there.
Yay. Podcasts.
Yeah. I guess it's worth noting those, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But I've been a fan of Beautiful Anonymous since before I knew Chris personally or knew you, obviously. And so I'm a big fan of that show and its premise.
Not to get too like saccharine, and this is the only show that I might get this way on, but like Beautiful Anonymous genuinely is like one of my first favorite podcasts. And like when I started working on podcasts, it was like sort of the vision board show. So it's pretty crazy. And
now you're producing it.
Now it's now I produce it. It's really crazy and exciting. And it's if you haven't listened to it, it's a really wonderful podcast. And I just, in a weird way, I think if you like our show, like you would, it's just like,
it's good vibes.
Yeah. It's just a good vibe show for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
What else?
I think that's it. I'm going to be in my homeland in a few weeks.
You ready to get strong again, to recharge?
I am going to eat as many bagels as humanly possible and regain my strength for my upcoming travels.
Yeah, if you're one of our too many fucking podcasts. If you're one of our New Jersey's the World listeners or a Gethard fan who's going to be, should we say we're going to come say? Jodie and I are going to be at Geth's show in Patterson, which is already sold out. But come find us and say hi.
Yeah.
I'm so big time us in front of Gethard. I would come say hi to me and Jodie only.
Yes, you could come up to us and be like, "Oh my god, I love the Watchers so much," and then just ignore that you're actually at a Chris Gethard show. We say this with love. We love Chris.
That's
He's
so
the reason
funny.
that we're doing this. But yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be in Jersey at the end of this month for Geth's show in Patterson and for bagels. So
mostly for bagels, but while you're here,
the
you
fact
might as
that
well stop by.
So this is not a Chris Gethard promotional podcast, but the reason that we're doing this is because he is doing this like New Jersey tour, world tour of every county in New Jersey. And he hasn't announced the Bergen County one yet. And I'm not going to be around for that. So I'm coming to the Passaic County one because it's the closest to where I grew up. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to visit the Great Falls for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the Great Falls. A North Jersey icon. Not as good
I
as
know
the
you're
Glen Rock,
listening.
but...
Oh boy. Okay. And listeners, this has been The Watchers. I've been your host, Andrea.
And I'm Jodie, eternal fan of the Glen Rock. We will see you next week for hopefully another fun, silly time.
Death becomes her. Bye-bye.
Yay!